Happy New Year and welcome into Gold and Black Radio presented by BetMGM. BetMGM account holders will receive an any sport parlay boost token. Score a bigger payout if your wager with the parlay boost token hits. Tokens can be used on parlays and SGPs. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. We take a brief respite from Purdue basketball. Another dominating win for the Boilermakers as they go to Madison and they push around the Badgers in the second half, including Braden Smith breaking the Big Ten assist record with a victory the other night. We'll circle back with Brian Newbert of goldenblack.com here shortly. But, of course, the transfer portal opened in college football. So who better to talk about that than Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison, our two football writers and knowers at goldenblack.com, who will join us here in just a couple of minutes. But as always, we start out with a big thank you to our terrific Gold and Black Radio sponsors back on board for 2026, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics, and the official credit card for Purdue fans, Boiler Up, East End Grill, and Ripple & Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn, this Midwestern oasis is perfect for relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. By Sand Valley Resort, ready for a winter getaway? Discover the stillness and beauty of Sand Valley. Our stunning 12,000-acre landscape is the perfect place to explore, whether you're cross-country skiing, enjoying a quiet walk, or just relaxing by the fire. With thoughtfully designed accommodations and nourishing dining, Sand Valley is the place to reconnect with yourself and those you love. Find your winter retreat at sandvalley.com. And finally, the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermaker scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research saves lives. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Let's welcome on our dynamic duo. Welcome back, I should say, our dynamic duo. Happy New Year to both Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison of goldenblack.com to talk a little pigskin with us. And guys, like I know the season ended long ago, but since the transfer portal opened on Friday, Purdue has netted 3 commitments at the time of this episode's taping. But I think that we would all agree to this point, the biggest one is Jarrett Gibson, the running back out of Texas. Now, Tom, I want to be very careful here because Purdue doesn't have the best history when it comes to transfers from pedigree programs. I think notably we saw that with all the Georgia guys from the Ryan Walters regime. But when you look at the fact that he has 2 seasons of SEC level experience and just the talent level in general, hard to argue this isn't a big deal for Barry Odom and his staff.
Yeah, man. I mean, a 4-star recruit coming out of IMG Academy in Florida. Had a who's who list of offers as well. So he was a much sought after player coming out of high school. Went to Texas, got on the field right away as a true freshman, and made an impact. And then last year, it sort of went sideways on him. And I think the real issue there was just competition got stiffer. And he also had some issues with some ball security, if you will. He had a case of fumbles. I think he fell out of favor with the staff there as far as that goes. But he still is a very talented running back guy. He's not a super explosive guy, but more of a between the tackles runner. Strong guy, could really help you in the red zone and short yardage situations. And again, his pedigree is terrific. So it looks like, from this vantage point, guys, this is going to be your RB1 going into 2026. Deb and I talked, though, we both kind of expect Purdue to sign at least one more running back and maybe 2. So we'll have to see what else they add to that position.
Yeah, Dub, I was going to ask you kind of as a follow-up to that, where this leaves Antonio Harris, and then you've got Isaiah Wright coming in as a freshman too. Running back is kind of one of those rooms where it's almost the more the merrier, right? Kind of like defensive back. I think in a lot of ways is that way too. But what would you expect that number to ultimately be, especially where, I think kind of where Purdue was with Devin Mockabee, right? There's a clear bell cow, we think, here in this case, and other running backs are going to know that are potentially interested in Purdue.
Yeah, I think Purdue put on a full push for Jarrett Gibson, and for good reason. I think he's very talented, and I think he's fully capable of being a running back number 1 in the Big Ten. Now it's about adding depth and maybe complementary pieces to him and Antonio Harris and Isaiah Wright, like you mentioned. Antonio Harris showed some signs as a redshirt freshman. Burst onto the scene as a walk on and earned himself a scholarship. And then Isaiah Wright's a guy that, Barry Odom on National Signing Day said this kid can come in and help us right away. So they're very high on him. He's explosive. He does everything right. Everything a coach wants in a running back, Isaiah Wright does. So I know they're very excited about him. Some of the guys that they have coming in on visits or have been on visits, Travis Terrell from Jackson State, shorter guy, 5'8" or 5'9", 5'10", but he's a speedster. And he can also make an impact in the return game. So him, Jalen Lucas, who I think a lot of Purdue fans will remember from his IU days. Both of those guys, Terrell's already been on campus. Jalen Lucas is expected on campus at least this week. So getting one of those two guys, I think, would be big for them, just to have another option to change a pace back. And then just filling out the room, because you never know with injuries. Obviously, you knock on wood, you hope no one ever goes down, but you got to have depth, especially at running back. And last year they had 5 guys. I think they'll have 4 to 5 as you step into August and September.
Man, yeah, Jalen Lucas, that takes me back. That would have been the late Tom Allen years. He was kind of their Swiss Army knife in a lot of ways, and a speedster for IU. Sticking with the Big Ten and some transfers, Tom, USC's Micah Buenuelos, another from a power program that is coming aboard, one of the 3-person class that I mentioned. How big in particular, you look and you're like, well, it's a guard, but still, considering they're going to be 3 starters down on that line, including Hank Purvis going into the portal, how big was that pledge from Buenuelos?
Oh, it's huge. 4 starters. Braden Joyner went in a portal today, so both guards are gone. Of course, Jalen St. John excused his eligibility, and then Purvis, you talked about, went to the portal. Those are your 2 guards that were the primary starters, and then of course Joyner, I mentioned, the center, hit the portal, and then Bakeem Coley, the right tackle, he used his eligibility. So Joey Tonone is the only starter back, and it's an offensive line, guys, that we all know needs a lot of help. It was dubious last year. It remains in condition critical, if you will, not to overstate things, but I think that's accurate, condition critical. And this is a guy who's played football. He started games at USC. This is a guy who was recruited by Josh Henson, who was at USC at the time as the offensive line coach, so he knows this kid. And even the new offensive line coach as well worked with him at USC, so they're familiar with this kid's talent. Doesn't have great size, listed at 6'2", 6'3", about 313. You'd like him a little bit bigger. I talked to some writer who covered him for our USC site for On3, and he mentioned that his lack of size, but he was a guy that probably figured to be a depth player for USC this year, but he thought his best football was ahead of him. So worst case scenario, guys, this is a guy who can provide you some depth on the interior. Maybe if he develops, he's good enough to start a guard for you, maybe even center.
Yeah, and it's funny, Doug, because you go on Knucklehead Central, and I understand I'm not one that is going to sugarcoat things for the current state of Purdue football. Neither are you or Tom, right? But a lot of people are like, well, Purdue's 2-10. Why would anybody want to come here? Where's program and the whole thing? But you look at it, at a case like Buenuelos, like this is what the transfer portal is about. No, where here's a guy who has starting experience, and these guys want to start. You know what I mean? They don't want to be depth guys necessarily. And, Purdue provides that for an option for a lot of these guys that feel like they might be buried elsewhere. I know that's not an ideal situation, but still, considering where Purdue is, to be able to pluck from talent-rich rosters like USC and Texas, it's not the worst place to be.
Yeah, and Buenuelos, he's got some ties to the Purdue staff. Was recruited by Josh Henson and Zach Crabtree, so he trusts those guys. And they obviously saw enough in him as a high school recruit to bring him to USC, which is nothing to scoff at. So he's talented. It'll be up to Henson and Crabtree to get him up to speed and get him in playing shape. I think he's had some injury troubles a little bit, so he's finally getting healthy, and maybe he can get out there and make an impact for Purdue. And they're gonna need guys to step up. But going back to being able to pluck from these top tier programs, guys that have experience, I think that's invaluable. Jared Gibson had a lot of success at Texas in a very crowded backfield as a true freshman. Buenuelos started and graded out higher than some of the guys that he was replacing that were out due to injury. So anytime you can get power forward guys with experience and valuable experience, it's not just guys that are kind of out there going through the motions and not playing and coming in with 100 receiving yards or 5 tackles in a year, actual experience in playing and getting extended run. I think that's huge. And I think that's what you should strive for if you're Purdue. Obviously, you're gonna have to get some guys from the group of 5 level, maybe some bounce back guys that, went to a Georgia or a Texas or a USC or what have you, and wasn't able to crack the rotation, and now they're coming to Purdue for another chance. So it's kind of a wide range of options that Purdue has in the portal. But being able to get Power 4 guys with experience, I think is huge.
Tom, we're talking about some of the new, some of the old we're learning about too, as some players repledging their commitments to Purdue, because that's the world that we live in now in college football. And Ryan Brown, one of those, announcing his intent to return. Kind of a weird offseason last year, but I'm not sure once he came back from that flirtation with Carolina that he was ever really challenged for that QB1 spot. It felt like it was always going to be him the whole way. Are you under the assumption, is he just going to be handed the keys again, or do you expect Barry Odom to open up some sort of competition at that spot, even if it's with just Meredith or one of the other holdovers that's coming over, assuming they're not going to go back into the portal for another quarterback?
Yeah, that's the $64,000 question, Derek. And I'm leaning toward thinking Purdue's not going to fish another quarterback out of the portal. They're going to roll. They're going to roll with Ryan Brown, and then Bennett Meredith probably will be QB2, and then Evans Chuba, and then you got the true freshman Corn Berry, and then Garrett Odom as well. So that's my thinking at this point. From what I understand, from what they're paying Ryan Brown, he's making substantial money. I'm not sure how much more money you can really devote to the position, honestly. You still got to build out the rest of your roster. And so I think the key is going to be handled to Ryan Brown, and it's going to be his offense, unequivocally his offense. He likes, from what I understand too, he likes it here. He likes the coaches. That's a good thing. He does have a buyout in his contract, I've heard. And so I guess there is a chance he could buy out his contract and go in the portal in the next 2 weeks. That's out there. That's a possibility. But for now, he's content at Purdue from what I understand. So, yeah, he's going to be the guy. They're going to roll with number 15. And he obviously does a lot of things well, but we know he's got work to do too. But he certainly would be a better quarterback with better talent around him. And that's really the case. I think Ryan Brown's good enough, right? I think he can win enough games with him. He may not be elite, but he can be a solid quarterback for you. Again, the key is going to be getting that receiving core improving the offensive line as well. And that tight end room, which is an abomination, has got to improve as well. So, we all do better with good people around us, and Purdue's got to do a good job surrounding Brown with some talent here.
Dub, what are some of the other positions that you think Purdue will really be hard after in the portal, and maybe the ones that you have circled as the ones that they absolutely must address not only once but multiple times?
Yeah, wide receiver obviously is huge, as excuse me, as Tom kind of alluded to. And they've had some guys on campus, Ja'Shawn Platt from FAU, who I'm really high on. Mason Humphrey, he's kind of under the radar from Lehigh. He's been productive in 3 years there at the FCS level. And then the big one, Chase Hendricks from Ohio. I think if Purdue could get him, he'd immediately slide in as the number 1 wide receiver. I think edge rusher is another spot that they need to hit hard. They got Kamari Brown that's expected on campus today. Actually, he's a transfer from Elon, had 12 sacks a year ago. I think linebacker is another spot that they got to hit hard. Losing Manny Powell and Alex Sanford and Sanders Ellis. So I think you can make an argument for just about any position that Purdue could use some reinforcements in one way or another. Whether it's a starting caliber guy or a bounce back freshman that you just need for some depth and to develop. So I think those are 2 of the main ones. Obviously, offensive line is going to be big, rebuilding that after losing 4 starters. Running back, which they've kind of already addressed. I mean, I can go down every position group, it feels like, but those are some of the ones off the top of my head.
Yeah, real quick too. We saw the flurry of tweets from players saying they're coming back. Right? There's one key guy that we've not seen a tweet from. That's Charles Correa, the linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that on your radar. Maybe the best player on defense is yet to make a statement if he's staying or going yet. So we watch with bated breath to see what he does.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on for sure. Last thing here, Tom, since the last time we spoke, there have been a handful of coaching staff and scouting changes. I think the Kevin Kane one stuck out to fans in particular. We don't need to rehash that one again. That's we've already had our message board meltdowns over that. But overall, how did you view everything? How Odom and putting this staff together and making some tweaks, maybe without the wholesale changes that some people had hoped for?
Yeah, Cornell Ford was a natural. He's a running backs coach at heart. That's what he was coached before he came here. Moved to receivers coach to sort of accommodate Lamar Kennard. Now Ford is back at running back. I think that's obviously good, and the young kid from Fresno State is coaching the offensive line. He has a great familiarity with Josh Henson. So Henson actually coached him when he was at Oklahoma State, and then of course worked with him at USC. So there's familiarity there, and I think Henson's going to get what he wants from this offensive line coach. And then Kevin Kane, right? We'll have to wait and see how that all works out. We've all asked to talk to Barry Odom about that and a number of other subjects here. We were told we were supposed to get him some point here after the new year. Maybe when school starts next week, Odom will be available. But a lot of us have a lot of questions for Barry Odom about the staff realignment, particularly the defensive coordinator spot. And to that same spot, guys, Dave Steckel was brought in. And Dave Steckel is a former defensive coordinator, an old tough Marine, coached at Missouri for years, knows Barry Odom well, has run defenses with the head coach of Missouri State. He's going to provide quite a good sounding board and bring a lot of experience to that staff as well.
You can follow Tom and Dub on X and get their thoughts, writings, and analysis by becoming a goldenblack.com subscriber. For all of the best Purdue football and men's basketball content, head to goldenblack.com. Appreciate the insights, fellas, and I know we're going to be talking again here soon as you guys keep up with all the portal news. Appreciate it as always, and I'll text you soon.
Don't jump in the portal, Derek. Stay with us, buddy.
I'm sticking around. That's Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison, and that is our show for Golden Black Radio. Thanks so much for joining us on this first January edition of GBR, and thanks to our tremendous sponsors, Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple & Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort with thoughtfully designed accommodations and nourishing dining. Sand Valley is the place to reconnect with yourself and those you love. Find your winter retreat at sandvalley.com. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, which has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. As I always tell you at the end of these episodes, we really appreciate it if you left a 5-star review and comment on your favorite podcast platform. That would be totally super duper awesome. Be sure to enable alerts. We upload new content all the time, whether it's portal stuff, whether it's Braden Smith stuff, whether it's Purdue Pizza. I mean, I don't know, anything and everything right here at goldenblack.com and the plethora of platforms that we have. And why not, while you're at it, why not subscribe to the godfather of them all, right? goldenblack.com. If you're not already a subscriber, join us and join the biggest Purdue community on the internet in the process. Subscribe today at goldandblack.com. We'll be back next week with more hoopage, a home week for Purdue following the win in Madison over Wisconsin, and we will sprinkle in the football news when it is pertinent and necessary as well. We're going to hit you from all fronts here on Golden Black Radio every single week, every single Tuesday, and we appreciate you for tuning us in. But until next time, I'm Derek Schultz. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week right here on Golden Black Radio. As you all know by now, Golden Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.